Hey, welcome to the Meme Team podcast, where we talk about the logic behind virality, because marketing isn't just logic, it's culture. And our podcast decodes both. We have a special guest with us today, the author of Transforming Customer Brand Relationships, Christina Garnett. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to hear more about like the book tour and your experience of like the marketing behind the book. Let's start off with Apple TV losing the Plus, and then Netflix losing the Netflix original, which I think is interesting because it's like, on the one hand, they're kind of like simplifying the branding, which makes a lot of sense. But at least for Netflix original, I thought, like the whole point of they're creating their own content studio and shows and everything. But I wonder if that has something to do with like the quality kind of going down, right? Like when it originally started, they had like House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, and like all those like top tier shows that were like in contention for like awards. And then now it's kind of just become reality TV.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of things. I think we've definitely seen some quality go down, but I think we've seen some quality go up. And I think the way they were using Netflix original was to really kind of basically make sure that it's very clear and signal that they can do prestige television
Hmm.
too, but they've been accepted. And I think Frankenstein by Guillermo del Toro is a perfect example of this.
Mm,
They are working with really top tier directors. I mean, I'm deeply biased. Guillermo is my favorite
yeah.
director. But they also are gonna have, like it's gonna be in theaters as
Hmm.
well as be on the streaming service, so they've kinda proven that they can do prestige, and they've gotten awards. Like, I remember when Netflix started, like, basically submitting for the Oscars, and it was very obvious they were being snubbed, but that energy isn't there anymore, so I feel like the original reason for Netflix original is no longer necessary because they are a part of the conversation, and it just is what it is now, and so they don't really need that signal, and that's what I feel like it was. I feel like it was a signal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One thing too is, especially kind of you have Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, but you also have their, huge hit K-pop Demon
Mhm.
Hunters, which they
Yep.
can't really claim as a Netflix original, right? Because it was
Yeah.
made and produced by Sony. They
Mhm.
bought the rights.
Yeah.
And so because they wouldn't be able to label that as like a Netflix
Yeah.
original, it kind of
Yeah.
lowers their,
Yeah.
not the bar, but just the meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think by getting rid of that, they can just own it. It's just like a
Mhm.
Netflix show
Yeah.
or movie.
Yeah.
So I think it makes it easier to do that, which makes a lot of sense. Because on top of what you're saying, where it's like they've already been accepted. I mean, they won awards last year, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So they've definitely been progressing and, been fully accepted into like the whole Hollywood
Yeah.
regime or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they're one of the big players. I mean, and to suggest otherwise is just not fair to what they've done. And so, I think you could throw a lot of love and hate towards Netflix for some of the choices that they've made. But I think overall, they've really shown what they can do on the scale. And I mean, it's not a mistake, and it's not by coincidence that you have so many of these studios trying to replicate what
Hmm.
Netflix did. And for the incumbent, I mean, Netflix has really held their lead. Like
Hmm.
they've had Disney create a streaming service. They've had all of these other ones come out, and Netflix is still going strong. So I think it does speak to the fact that they're holding tight and they're adapting when needed.
Yeah. I think that also goes to say a lot about Apple TV as well, right? Because it's like, I think it's also trying to follow that journey of like, tech company that's like investing in like Hollywood and movies. We saw like the
Yeah.
success that they had with F1, the movie over the summer.
Hmm.
I still consider it to be like one of the top,
It
like
absolutely
TV
is.
show like platforms now,
Hmm.
even more so than like Netflix. If it shows
Yeah.
up on Apple Plus, I'm more likely to give it a chance.
Yeah.
At
Mhm.
least, a few episodes. Um, they still need to work on their marketing. That's still a thing,
I
but
need
they're
them to
getting
bring the
better.
energy. Well, like what they did with Severance, especially for the lead up to the latest season, was absolutely perfect. Because I'd watched like a
Hmm.
little bit of it in the season one, but I had not like actually invested the time to sit down and watch a full episode. And so
Hmm.
when they did the Union Station experience,
Yeah.
I was locked in. I was like, I have to buy, like, just by respect of
Yeah.
the marketing here, I have to at least
Hmm.
watch an episode and see what this is all about.
Yeah.
Immediately fell in love, binged everything, loved it. And they have slow horses, which I'm obviously a massive fan
Yeah.
of. I love slow horses.
Hmm.
But I think the plus in the original, I think there's signals.
Hmm.
And I think that there's no reason for that signal anymore. So like Apple's Apple. And
Yep.
they never, like, TV was never the lead. Entertainment
Hmm.
was never the lead. It was always their products. It was their technology. And then now you have TV Plus, which is an extension. So now it's like an added feature of being in the Apple cult or Apple family.
Hmm.
But now, like you said, they have really fantastic, like, Apple TV now is what HBO was like 20 years ago. And so they don't need that signal of it being an addition. It
Hmm.
it stands alone. Like, it doesn't need the plus. And so I think both cases it's an issue of, like, we drop it because that signal is no longer necessary.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Well, anyway, let's move on to
Yeah.
the first topic. So I want to talk about Timothée Chalamet and the Marty Supreme movie promotional tour because he has really gone in deep into it. And frankly, I'm loving it. I love the enthusiasm, how much effort he's like putting into it, who he's involving,
Yep.
in it. I remember his speech for the Saga Wars where he says that he wants to be one of the greatest. And I remember a lot of people just kind of rolling their eyes
Yeah.
at, like, the sincerity of it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"What are you talking about?" Like, the fact that he's out there, putting himself out there and, like, showing that he wants to be great at his art, at his craft is a brilliant way to be putting himself out there. And I think the sincerity of it kind of just, like, rocked people. I mean, we've seen how some people react to when previous, actors thinking here, Anne Hathaway, like, genuinely wanted to win, like, the Oscar,
Yeah.
and how she was, like, persona non grata for, like, such a long time because of it, you know? I'm not seeing as much hate for Timothy, thankfully, because I just don't think it's warranted, and he absolutely is, like, at the top of his craft. So the fact that
Yeah.
he's now going full tilt into, like, marketing his movie,
Mhm.
which, it's an A24 movie, which was already gonna, have some
Yeah.
breakthrough just because it is an A24 movie, but it's also an indie film about
Yeah.
a ping pong, player in the 1950s. So it wasn't gonna get that much attention. So the
Yeah.
fact that he's really like going full into it and like, doing these like what's essentially like not really heard of anymore.
Yeah.
Um He's done the like that video, the 5-minute video of like, the big ping pongs walking around, and at the end, he's just kind of like sitting there looking like he's getting ready to start doing, the media tour. And then he did the Regal Cinemas like 30-minute preview of the movie where he was escorted by the guys again wearing like the big ping pong ball. He was photographed with the Hermes Kelly
Yeah.
bag in orange. I like that he's pulling in like the colors, right? You have like the orange ping pong balls, you have the
Yeah.
orange Hermes Kelly bag. He attended, I think it was a baseball game with Kylie Jenner, his current girlfriend, and she was wearing a Marty Supreme jacket. And then later, her sister Kendall Jenner was also filmed wearing the jacket. And I'm seeing a lot of tweets of like, women saying, I can't wait to wear the jacket, or to like, purchase it. So he's really like changing the game here. And like one of the things I wanted to bring up is how um we've seen this on like the actresses side with Zendaya or using fashion as like
Yeah.
the promo tour, right? Of like what
Yeah.
she's wearing and like really
No
making
one does
that.
it better. I could do an
I
entire
know.
podcast just on Law Roach. I love him. His taste is immaculate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you've seen that she's grown into this like A-list superstar, I'd say a lot because of like the fashion and the choices she's been making.
Yes.
And so I'm kind of seeing this as like Timothy Chalamet is like, well, I can't really do like fashion, so like what can I do, So
Yeah.
he's kind of created his own mode of marketing, this movie. But it's also going back to the way that he used to like do things when he was online, right? Like
Yeah.
the invitation to the Regal Cinemas event was like him, it was an Instagram story that he like, wrote on there, like, meet me here at like, the
Yeah.
time and place. And that got like a bunch of people in New York to just like come out and say like, oh my God, of course I'm gonna like, support him. And that's one of the things that we've been talking about here, that, people really want to experience those like IRL events and like do things that aren't possible, anywhere else. And if you're like living in New York, and another thing is like Timothée Chalamet is very much a New Yorker, and like he's
Yes.
espoused his love for the city and the city's teams and all that. So the fact that he's like using the city as like a character as well, also the movie was set in New York.
Mhm.
Really goes to show that he's like putting his all behind this. So it sounds like you've seen a lot of the things that I'm like thinking
Yeah.
about, but are you seeing like the through line between like what he's doing here, the fashion thing, and like the other thing that he is a producer for the movie. So I think that he's earning the producer creds here, right? Of like,
Yeah.
going out there and like really promoting the movie.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely seeing the through line. I think that, like, out of everything that I'm seeing is that you have to adapt to attention. And so when we're looking at this, we kind of assume, or I think even Hollywood has kind of taken for granted the idea of an audience.
Hmm.
And so I think superhero movies are probably the best example of this, where we talk about superhero fatigue, but we don't so much talk about the reliance on you expecting an audience to always be there,
Hmm.
even regardless of the product. Just
Hmm.
basically, if it's in this niche, they will come. And that's just not true. And we've seen, especially in Hollywood over the past few years, is that you can't just have a massive ad campaign or put trailers in front of like the new hit movie and it be enough to secure a massive box
Hmm.
office. You have to play the game. And so what I love that he's doing is that he's bringing in guerrilla marketing the way you normally only see smaller people do. So it's really interesting to see, because once you get to a big enough name or you're a household name, you kind of assume like, just say my name and put my name above the line, like put my name above the title, and people will show up. And
Hmm.
so I think it speaks to him understanding the craft before and after the camera rolls, that that's not enough. Like, he has to bring his best to the part, but then he has to sell it to make sure people even see it in the first place. And I think a lot of Hollywood has suffered because they've completely taken for granted their audience, and they don't realize that you need to do both. Instead of
Hmm.
this, like, we're going to drop millions of dollars on these ad campaigns. And it's like, that's not going to cut it anymore. When everyone is doing the same tactics, it all kind of blends together and nothing feels special. So that kind of guerrilla marketing tactic, I think, is a great way for him to understand that he has to go where the people are.
Yeah, that
And
reminds me of
yeah,
Disney, like Disney shows,
yeah,
right? Because you
mhm,
would think that any Star Wars property would
yeah,
immediately just get a whole bunch of eyeballs because it's Star Wars, it's on Disney, blah blah blah. And they've done the regular campaign of like, we released a trailer, we released another one, we kind of put the stars out there, but like not really, like
yeah, yeah.
I'm just thinking about Andor, which was like to me like
Oh,
the
I
best
loved
series of the
Andor.
year. And
Yeah,
like it still doesn't have that many views, like
yeah,
for what it is, right? It's
yeah,
starting to get a little bit more because people are, out there talking about it. They're saying that it's like the best show this year. But if they had done some marketing like this, I think it
yeah,
could have done a lot better.
yeah,
So I really I agree with you. I don't think it's enough to just, oh well, this big name A-list star is attached to the movie, or
yeah, yeah,
they have to get out there and do it, And I mean, this is reminding me of
mhm,
Leonardo DiCaprio having to go into the New Heights
yeah,
podcast the
yeah,
first time he's ever been on a podcast because
yeah,
he also is realizing like, oh shit, I need to do
yeah,
more actual movie promoting so that
yeah,
people come watch this movie.
yeah,
Because it's a smaller film,
yep,
even though it has, big name stars attached to it. It's, Paul Thomas Anderson, who's like a
yep,
well-known director that people
yeah,
know and love, but it's
yeah,
still, not a superhero movie, you know? Um, so, he went on the podcast for the first time and like, I mean, you could tell that like he was a little like uncomfortable,
yeah,
but honestly, that was like one of the best interviews that I've seen,
yeah,
of anybody,
yeah,
not just him. So I think it's like great that they're expanding with their
yeah.
usual like marketing tactics because they need to do that in order to get another audience.
Absolutely, and I think it speaks. I mean, we saw this with the election too, and having a more widespread approach of like, how do we incorporate podcasts? How do we incorporate
Hmm.
more like on the street content? How do we do all these things? And so I think that it speaks to, especially with like the economic concerns that everyone has, you cannot like, you're not just asking someone to go to the theater to see your movie. You're asking them to figure out if they're going to take their kids. If they can't take their kids, what does a babysitter kind of cost? They have to go there. They're going to spend a lot of money on the ticket. They're also going to spend money on concessions. They're going to have to drive there. And then also, once they get there, the other humans in the room probably can't behave. Like, I have a massive problem with I can't handle, like, loud eaters. So, like,
Hmm.
"Don't make me president." I'd ban popcorn in theaters so fast,
I
like,
mean, I
there'd
would
be a
vote for
coup within
that.
a week, but, like, I'd get rid of the popcorn, like, "Y'all can't handle this responsibility. Shut your mouth when you eat." Like,
I
but I
mean,
can't
don't
do
turn on
it.
your phone, don't speak.
Yeah,
Like, come on.
but that's honestly what it is, and so, like, I think that I think that Hollywood and also just brands in general, when they're
Hmm.
marketing, you have to understand that like the ask seems very simple to you. The CTA is very simple to you, but that is not what the whole ask is when it's internalized by the person that's getting that marketing email, that ad or whatever. Like there's so much more involved. So like great case in point is Wicked Part 2 or
Mm,
Wicked for Good.
yep.
I'm gonna take my daughter, I'm gonna buy tickets, but we're gonna also go really early in the morning. We're probably gonna do,
Mm,
like, whatever the earliest is, because that's what we saw Wicked Part 1, and I will never do a
the
popular
day
meet
of
the day like, the first day of it, do, like, the
or the
earliest.
earliest show. Yeah.
So, like, I think we saw it at, like, 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was supreme, because everyone that's doing it that early means business.
Yeah. We are
Like,
here to see the movie.
we are here because we care, we are locked in.
Yeah.
I'm not having a little jokey joke on the side, like,
Hmm.
we no, we are here. It's like the people who are there for, like, a Broadway show that know how to behave, like, we're here. And that's exactly how that they everyone behaved the way I expected them to behave. And I will never do a popular movie at, like, 9 o'clock on a Saturday or Friday night again because it's like, those are not my people. Y'all don't know how to behave.
Yeah. One
Absolutely
thing
not.
that that's yeah, yeah. One thing that that's reminding me of actually is I think it matters a lot more now to get people to come out that opening weekend.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it's a signal. That's
Yeah.
another thing, like, attention and signal. Like, that's the
Hmm.
whole show today.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think that was a huge reason why Leo was like willing to go on the podcast because he's like, we really need people to go out this first weekend. I mean, even right before that, there was all like, the Deadline and Variety articles saying like, oh, they've spent,
Yeah.
I think it was $150 million on this, and it's probably only going to bring in like 10 million. And that's already being seen as like, oh no, it's going to flop.
It's another
No one's going
one.
to go watch that movie. Like, why even bother going? Right. And
Yeah.
so like, I remember that
Variety's
like
kind of been on
last
my
week.
hit list though, because 'cause they've had some really sketchy, like, titles.
Totally, totally. Because it's not even just that one. Sinners, remember
What they
that
did to
happened?
Sinners is unconscionable to me. They
Yeah.
really tried to make that movie not do well, and I have a
Yeah.
lot of problems because that movie was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
I love Sinners. Such a
Yeah.
good movie.
Yeah. But so the point is that you're trying to get people to go that first weekend to signal
Yeah.
to other people that they
Yep.
need to
So
go
they need to
watch the
go.
movie.
Yep.
So you need to get as much attention as possible around the time that the movie's going to come out. The other thing that Timothy is doing here is like this is like 3 months out, right? Like this movie's
Yeah.
coming out Christmas Day. So it's like a slow roll marketing campaign that he's doing. He's getting the attention now. I think it debuted at New
Yeah.
York Film Festival,
Yeah.
and so he started getting attention for that. But now it's like a slow roll of like, okay, let's get the attention, so that by the time it
Yeah.
hits on Christmas Day,
Yeah.
people will already know that like, hey, I got to go see this movie. And that's like one thing I think that was missing from the one battle after another. Like that seemed like, oh, Leo came out like the week before to do like the
Yeah.
promotion.
I think you're also seeing that too, where, like, I think we're also seeing more mainstream movies
Hmm.
actually premiere at these film festivals, so they get, like, the artist street cred. So, like, they did that with Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein with at the Venice Film Festival, and I'm glad they did, but, like, on paper, I don't think I think people if they argued, like, "Why is this?" It's already got distribution, so, like, you're not showing it here for that. But it's
Yeah.
because it gives you, and I'm not judging them because any opportunity for Guillermo del Toro to get his flowers, I'm
I
all
mean,
about
that's
it.
like, but he is that type of director, right? Like,
But I think that's what it is. I think it's
yeah.
like we start the momentum like 6 months out. So,
Yeah.
like, we start at a film festival. I think it had like a 13-minute standing ovation.
Hmm.
So you have that, and so, like, all right, so from, like, the artistic side, it's doing well. Then from the commercial side, we have Netflix.
Hmm.
And then you have, like, all of these other we have, like, names. So you
Hmm.
have, like,
Oscar
Oscar
Isaac, and
Isaacs, and
yeah.
you have Mia Goth, and you have Jacob Elordi, and so and then you also have Del Toro. So you have, like, this mix. So, like, commercially, it's got what it needs. And then you go to the film festival, and it's kind of got, like, the elitist,
Right.
like, clapping. It's like, "Okay, so we've nailed both." And so then it's just a matter of, like, setting up the time, and then, like, the timing's right. I cannot tell you, one of my biggest pet peeves is when you have a clearly gothic or horror or Halloween movie, and it is not presented in October.
Yeah.
Drives
What
me
do you mean,
nuts.
June?
I
In the
know,
middle of the
like, it
summer?
drives me insane. So, like, I've already figured out, like, when I get to see
Yeah.
Frankenstein in theaters, and I've already told the hubs, like, "I don't care what you're doing that week. I
Yeah.
I don't care who's playing. I'm kidnapping you. We're going
Yeah.
to go see it." Like, it just is what it is. But that's the thing is, like, I think they've been very thoughtful, and I think he's doing the same
Mhm.
thing. It's like, how do we play kind of same thing, like, we gotta do podcasts, and we gotta do
Mhm.
TikToks, and we gotta do interview shows, and we gotta do a junket, and we gotta do, like, all the things. I think it's playing into that 'cause with each one, you're kind of collecting all these infinity stones, like, "Okay, here's where I collect the critics, here's where I correct the everyday person, here's where I collect, like, the readers, here's where I collect this," and so, if you want all of them, you have to collect all of them, and you
Mhm,
have to
mhm,
go
mhm.
where they are to get them, otherwise they're not gonna join in. They're not gonna
That's
go, they're
why
not gonna
I
be
tweeted
excited.
earlier this week about, like, is when is Timothy joining the New Heights podcast? Because that's gonna be a
Yeah,
clear,
I
like,
mean,
standout to get people to come out.
that's a
Because that's,
segment for
like,
sure.
the normie, sports fans that are listening to that
Yeah.
podcast. Why wouldn't you get them to come out for a ping pong movie, you know?
Yeah,
That's a sport, right?
I mean, honestly, depending on, like, which subsections you want in your
Mhm,
ICP, I mean, it makes sense to be like, like, what are the media outlets that are or opportunities or experiences that are most likely to capture the attention of that
mhm.
crowd? And so, like, if that's what you want as a sports crowd, like, New Heights is a great one to tap into for sure.
Well, yes, but I feel like that was what was very surprising about the Leo interview that they did. I feel
Mhm.
like the way that Jason and Travis talked to Leo about working with Paul Thomas Anderson, about working with Benicio del Toro, like the way that they were talking about the filmmaking, just everything, like didn't read to me as like, oh, these are like sports bros talking to like,
But I think that's why it's a good show. It's because, like,
no, totally.
especially Jason, like, the way he
Yeah.
carries himself,
Yeah.
he preps.
Yeah.
You can
He's
tell he
definitely
does
the more
not.
serious brother.
Yes, we love Jason in this house.
Yeah.
But I think that you can tell that he doesn't just sit at the mic and start
Yeah.
freestyling, like, you can tell that he wants to be like, I think it's clear that he's not just doing this for attention, he's just
Yeah.
not doing this for money. I think the same mentality that wanted him to be so good on the
Mhm.
field is saying, like, "If I'm gonna do this, I wanna be the best at it, so that means I gotta practice." So I think he has that same, and I could be wrong, I don't know Jason, I don't know that man,
No, I
but
mean, he has the
but
vibes
he
though.
comes
Plus, look
but
at
he
his
comes
wife, like
across. Oh, I love his wife, but it does come across as this is his new job,
Mhm,
and so he's gonna show up the way that he did when he was an NFL player. He's gonna practice, he's gonna be ready, he's gonna watch the tapes, he's gonna, like,
mhm.
do whatever he needs to do so that he can come on and be the best and be at his best game. And so I think that's what we're seeing, and so I'm not really surprised by that. I think that they also jumped at that not just because it's Leo, but because that opens up segments for them too. I think we
Totally,
forget that, like, not only can you be a guest on a podcast and open up segments for you, but it also opens up segments for the host of the podcast itself to be
totally.
like, well, now we can do more entertainment, or now we
Mhm.
can do this kind of niche, whereas before it would have felt weird.
Right.
So I think there's opportunity on both sides there.
Definitely, definitely agree with that. Well, cool. Do you want to move on to your topic?
Yeah, so getting into the attention economy and what
Yeah.
we're talking about is, I think there's also a bad side to it that
Mhm,
I think we've really seen go crazy this year, which is stunt marketing.
mhm,
Where I've gotten, and I tweeted this earlier this past week, where I'm not going to critique, like everyone else that's in marketing Twitter. I'm very guilty of a brand rebrands, and then we all deconstruct for like a week. Like, what we love about it, what we hate about it. We absolutely did it for Cracker Barrel. Like,
yeah.
we did things, like, we all deconstructed that to pieces. I can't do it anymore because I think it's all a lie.
Well, okay,
Like,
that's a hot take.
old Christina would have been like, "Okay, you got a new CMO. They need something that feels very impactful very quickly,
Mhm,
so you're gonna do a rebrand." And that was absolutely true. But I would argue now in this attention economy, where especially with rage bait and what we saw
mhm,
with, like, American Eagle and the Sydney Sweeney thing, and then we saw Elf and, like, the partnership they did with Matt Rife, like, I
mhm.
think we like, and I've seen the podcasts and the interviews with these CMOs being like, "Oh, it's okay. It was worth the risk." And I was like, it wasn't a risk
Yeah.
because you got what you wanted. Like, I think we need to think that just because we think it's a bad idea, If all they wanted was attention, then they
Mhm.
don't see it as a risk. You can
Right.
call it whatever you want, but they wanted press. And so I think that brands understand that if they rebrand, no matter how bad it is, actually the worse it is, the more likely they are guaranteed earned media and conversation. And if your brand is not doing well and it's being forgotten and it's stagnant,
Mhm.
then they'd rather be hated and talked about than forgotten. And so the more I see this now, I don't see it as, oh, you have a new CMO and you're trying to do something like cool. I don't think that's what it like Domino's did it and I was like, we don't no, it was Domino, it was Pizza Hut. Actually, I think they both did. Like we don't need this. Like and I want to go up to him and be like, Pizza Hut, we just want you like Reading Rainbow's backed. Do the Book It thing and partner
Mhm.
with Reading Rainbow and bring back like late 90s or like late 80s, early 90s nostalgia Pizza Hut. That's all we
Mhm.
want. And it's a great time to do it because we have a deeply illiterate society that needs to be encouraged to read. There's a lot of parents who can't feed their children right now. And so what you're
Mhm.
doing is you're doing an act of goodwill that's
Mhm.
going to encourage people to read and is also going to give an outlet for these parents to be able to feed their children. Like that's a win-win, but you paid money for a rebrand because you just wanted
Mhm.
people to talk about you. So it's like I know I'm not smart for thinking that because I know other people are thinking like I know that like
Yeah.
every millennial was like I know exactly what we want and this wasn't it.
Yeah.
So it's not me being a genius or like a brilliant marketer, it's you just wanted attention. You want a little pop. And so I think that's what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of brands light themselves on fire
Yeah.
and then they just like sit there and be like, just it was okay. Like
Yeah.
we fought through the risk. And all they're really thinking is like, I got to be interviewed by Variety or
Yeah.
Hollywood Reporter talked about like
Yeah.
child,
Yeah. Yeah.
just say you wanted attention. But that's why I can't do it anymore. The marketing stunts are exhausting.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you were giving a lot of like, name brand examples, but I also want to bring up, the ones happening in the tech world, right? Which I'm sure you've also
Yes.
heard of. There's
Yes.
Cluely, who, has
Oh,
risen to the top
I cannot.
by
Well, Friend and Cluely, I
Cluely.
cannot.
Yeah.
That's not
Um,
even stunt marketing, that is douchebag marketing. That is
mhm.
being the most hated jerk in school, but everyone's like, "You
But
just hate
everyone's
me."
talking about it,
Everyone's
right?
talking about like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no.
So the two examples there, just for a
Yeah.
little bit more context, you have Cluely that, kind of came off the back of like the founder and CEO, Roy Lee, who was booted from Colombia because he had come up with this software that will help you cheat on your interview to like big companies. And then he got into YC, he dropped out of YC. And then he got, 15 million from Andreessen Horowitz and now has pivoted to the all cheating software. And has continued getting attention for that. And then Friend AI, we recently saw they plastered, I think it was the West Fourth subway station in New York City with like Friend billboard ads everywhere.
And
And
New
then
York did
recently,
what New York does
yeah,
best. I love some good vandalism. Good
yeah,
for you, New York,
exactly.
because you did what you should have done.
Yeah. And then they just announced, I think it was last week, that they spent $500,000 to have an out of home campaign with like billboards and bus routes here in LA. And I thought, like, I understood at least maybe they were trying to get a certain type of their ICP within New York City because they're, the station that they chose is the one that a lot of like young workers, get off of because that's where they work or that's where they live or party and all that. But the one in LA didn't make sense to me because like they're putting them on buses where like, the people that ride the buses are probably not the people that are ever going to buy a Friend AI. You could argue that maybe, oh, it's because they're going to be, next to the people that are driving in the cars that'll see them. But that just made a lot less sense for me. And that one just like really annoyed me because I'm like, you're still
What's on
getting
purpose?
very poor reviews for your actual product
They
from
don't
people that
care.
want to like your product on
They don't
Twitter,
care.
And
They
I
don't
know, and
care.
I know that's the thing, like they don't care. And I think like for me, the gall of like not caring about like the actual product or service that you're building is very annoying to me because
Yeah.
like um what is it all for if you're just building, a
They're not
plastic
building the
thing?
product. But that's the thing
Yeah.
is they're not
Yeah.
building it for that. And I
Yeah.
think what they are doing too is what they've done is they've built a grift cycle. And the grift cycle is powerful enough that it captures enough attention that that has been equivocated into market share or
Mm,
to like value. And so I think if you think about just how turbulent things are, especially in like the VC and marketing world, we just had the crypto, like a massive crypto crash. There's a lot of things that are like being told, like you're being yelled at online about how like how strong something is or how you should invest in something, and then literally weeks later it falls apart and you're like, I thought this was supposed to make you rich, but now you're
mhm,
telling me that its value is literally ephemeral. And so what you have is they've gamed the system. Like we
mhm.
live in a world where Forbes 30 under 30 is a bigger indicator of future fraud than it is for
They're at
future
what, like
success.
5, 7 people that
They're
have
collecting them, yes.
gone to
But I feel
prison?
like yeah, but I feel like that's a signal.
Yeah.
Like, drink every time I say signal in this podcast.
Yeah.
But I think it's a signal of, like, the society that we've built around success is that I don't like what Chloe and friends are doing, but they are absolutely symptoms. Like, they are the natural conclusion of what we have been praising for so
Mhm.
long,
Mhm.
where it's the hard work is the ICPs, is the customer marketing, is the journeys, is the product market fit, is the beta testing, is the trying to figure out market share, is the product improvement. And what we've done is we've glorified the founder journey that goes from 0 to 60. We've
Mhm.
glorified the college dropout. We have absolutely glorified the college dropout into them becoming a CEO. Like
Mhm.
Zuckerberg is probably a great example of like dropout to billionaire, lost his ethics if he ever had any along the way, but it's okay because he's a
Mhm.
billionaire and owns half
Right.
of Hawaii now. And
Mhm.
so like that's where we're at is we've glorified all the non-hard work that gets you attention, but doesn't mean that what you're doing is good. And so what you have is you have these guys who have leaned in heavily and been like, they don't want you to like their product.
Mhm. I think it comes and goes in cycles though, because I mean, honestly, California was built on the gold rush, which was
Yeah.
that premise, right?
Same.
Where it's like,
Same. It's the same thing. Yeah.
you just want to win the lottery, you want to
Yeah.
get your own, and then, go from there, right? And then
Yeah.
the 80s with the Wall Street guys, like that was the original thing. The '08 crash, like that was also built on that.
But that's where we're at is we're
Hmm.
cycling this. And so what these guys have done is they've basically put a mirror on society. And maybe I'm
Hmm.
giving them honestly too much credit, but they have seen what is glorified.
Hmm.
And so they are copying and pasting that playbook. And then putting up the most obnoxious ads, but then saying like, "Well, I had the money to spend it." And
Hmm.
as long as the VCs are funding the bad behavior,
Right.
then more people are gonna do the exact same bad behavior. So the VCs are just as culpable as these founders who are doing this. Because at the end of the day, like, if you're funding them for attention and earned media and not the product, then you're really kind of telling on yourself as to what you actually value, and it's
Hmm.
not the product or service.
Right. But then also, I mean, wouldn't that be like the vicious cycle, right? Where it's like you get funded for getting the attention. If you want to get funded again, you gotta go get more attention,
Well,
right?
think about Theranos.
Right.
Speaking of another 30 under 30, like
Hmm.
tons of VC funding, tons of attention. She was basically on every magazine cover.
Hmm.
And then, but no one did their due diligence until it
Hmm.
was too late.
Well,
And
and
then,
then they're
yeah.
saying that she's about to announce some sort of like coin, right?
And
Like
she
from
will, and
prison.
just, but also like, but she'll be funded. Like,
Right.
there is nobody I believe will get funding quicker than someone who has crashed and burned publicly. So like Fire
We
Festival
had the
guy,
WeWork
he
guy.
yeah, WeWork guy was immediately funded as soon as he tried to do
Hmm.
something else.
The
Fire
Bolt
Festival
guy.
tried to do Fire Festival
Hmm.
2, Bolt guy, like she's gonna get funded. Like
Yeah.
there's something very interesting about the you've already proven you're a fraud, but you've proven you can get attention.
Hmm. And
Here's a
you've proven
check.
you can get money from people.
Yes, here's a check. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that that says a lot about where we are, and I think part of it has led into this whole disaffectedness, right? And like
Yes.
the fact that like the feeling that you got to get yours or someone's going to get it from you, the dog
Yes.
eat world thing, like totally, I mean, that's where we are. I think everywhere, including politically, which
Yes.
kind of segues into my next topic about what we expect from like politicians in order to get out there. So the Zoran Mamdani profile in the New York Times just came out, and one of the sentences that was written really stood out to me because of like what it means for marketing.
Yes.
So it said, a candidate in today's day and age needs to be able to explain ideas in a 30-second vertical social media video, Reels, TikTok, a 3-minute television hit, so that's, going on Good Morning America, going on, Fox News, whatever, and a 3-hour long form podcast. So that's all the Joe Rogans and Theo Vons and, whenever there's a Dem one, eventually, that will be what's needed. And I think it kind of encapsulates where we are politically because it's not enough to use the old political playbook, which I'm kind of seeing Democrats still trying to do, which is
Yeah.
frankly why they're not doing well, right?
Yeah.
Aside from Zoran Mamdani, who most of the Democratic like party refused to endorse, refused to get behind, even though he's the only one that's doing politics correctly right now in terms of getting his voice out there, getting the youth and disaffected voters who like usually wouldn't vote to come out
Yeah.
and actually vote, to
Yep.
participate, to help volunteer, to like do all this stuff. And nothing, we're not talking here about like political like policies or any of that, but what politicians need to do now in order to get attention. And this like matters a lot to me because the next two elections are going to be some of the most important ones, and so people need to know what it is that is actually happening, economically, politically, everything across the board. And if they're not finding that out because politicians refuse to go onto TikTok, where a lot of people get like their news, or go on Reels because that's where, people are, then they're only finding out this information and all that. So I think it's very necessary for like, politicians to learn how to get out there. And yes, um, you may say, like, do I really want a politician to be on TikTok? You should, because that's where
Yeah.
people are finding out their information. And
Yeah.
like the more that we look down on it and look down on the people that like get their information from TikTok as opposed to a news source, the CNN, MSNBC or whatever, who have like record low views these days, like record
Yeah.
low, you know,
Yeah.
um, the more that people are going to be misinformed and
Mhm.
disinformed
Yep.
and are not going to end up voting for like policies that could affect them, or well, most definitely affect them, but could affect them, positively or negatively.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
so some of the key metrics for why this matters, vertical video engagement is 3 times higher than horizontal. So what this means is you will, I'm sure we've all seen this. A lot of politicians post, speeches that they make. They'll post a horizontal video with like the black bars on top. Nobody likes to watch that, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to change the format so that they will watch your video. And you would think that that would be obvious. And yet we still have those horizontal videos coming out. And then the average span for political content is 8 seconds on TikTok and then 2.5 hours for podcasts. What does that mean? It means that you need to be going on podcasts. And I say this because if we call back to the 2024 election, you had people telling Kamala Harris to go onto
Yep.
podcasts so that
Yep.
she could get her views across, so people would listen, because that's where people are listening to those conversations. And it came out later that, she basically didn't want to do it because she well, first, I guess the Joe Rogan podcast, it was kind of going back and forth that like they didn't eventually want her to go on there, so she didn't. But there were other ones that, were proposed, and she just wasn't comfortable doing it,
Yeah.
which like says a lot about like, the policies and her being able to speak to them and like being comfortable in that like medium. And so that's one of the things now where like we're starting to see some candidates kind of, come out there, and like Pete Buttigieg, shout out to him because he can go onto those 3-hour
Yeah, he can do
podcasts and
those.
like
Yeah.
talk
He'll
about
carry
like,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He can talk about like, policies and like really break it down in a really simple, easy to understand way. Or Mamdani can also do that. AOC can do that, right? And so that's kind of what is expected now. Part of the thing that I want to like bring up here is kind of also bringing back like how we're expecting now celebrities to also go on podcasts. Podcasts are the new medium, like they just are. And you're just gonna have to like be able to talk about things, right? And like one thing I really like want to shout out here is that I see far more gotcha questions being asked of like celebrities and like artists that isn't being put towards politicians who actually should be able to answer these questions. And I think like one of the hot takes that I want to have is that like I don't care if celebrities have a take on like political things. Like fair enough if they do, like if they care and they want to like talk about it, good for them. But like let's put that energy towards like politicians. Like politicians
Yes.
should be able to like answer these questions. Tell me what is going on with the economy. Tell me about like housing. Tell me about like, the policies that you want to institute to help people and like why they matter, why they should matter to me, like why I should vote for them. And like
Yeah.
none of that energy is being done, even with
Yeah.
like actual political journalists that are supposed to be doing that job. Um, and if that's actually happening in podcasts, then like politicians should be going onto podcasts so that they can actually have smart conversations with people. Um yeah. So I feel like I've been going on for a while
No,
now,
you're
Christina.
good. You're
Please
good.
tell
No, I
me.
loved it. No,
Tell
I
me what you
loved
want to
it.
talk about.
No, I loved that. I think I agree with everything that you said. I would just bring it back to something that was a singularity in the political space
Hmm.
in the 60s. And that was the first televised debate between
Mm,
JFK and
sure.
Nixon. And it is the same thing. It is the when you go up there and you have Nixon versus JFK debating, and then because of, I think Nixon was sick, or he was like, his makeup made him look sick, or something to that effect. But he did not show well. And so JFK looks polished, he looks confident, he looks like he's not dying, like versus Nixon, who looks like pallid and
Sure.
like not doing so hot. And
He looks
so
sweaty.
he looks sweaty, like it just created, and it once again it signals other things. And so the modern day equivalent of how that debate changed how voters see and perceive their politicians is the same thing that we're seeing with podcasts, because we are not going to, if Kamala doesn't go on a podcast, or if whatever politician doesn't go on a podcast but their competitor does,
Hmm.
we are not going to immediately jump to the most logical thing of like, well, maybe it was just, maybe they didn't have time in their schedule. We're not going to use that information vacuum to go to a calm place. We're going to go to a place of they weren't ready. They
Hmm.
can't handle it. They're not confident. They can't speak to their stuff. They're too scared. Like we're get like an information vacuum is almost always the invitation to go negative.
Hmm.
And it
I mean, that's
also
exactly what happened with Kamala
yeah,
Harris.
and it creates a breeding ground. So now
Hmm.
you have Trump who's going on these podcasts and having these conversations, and then she doesn't. So
Hmm.
that gives him a really easy thing to be like, "Well, I was confident enough to do this, but she wasn't." And
Hmm.
whether that's the truth or not, that's the argument he could make. And so it creates an information vacuum. And the last thing you want in politics is an information vacuum. And
Hmm.
so I agree with you. I want this stance. I want them to ask tough questions. Like I just have Jon Stewart do every single
I
interview, and I'll
know.
be like the happiest. I love Jon Stewart. I'll be like the happiest kid. Just let, because he's not gonna play ball. He's gonna be like, "No, I actually wanna know the answer. You're gonna have to, like, you're here, you're gonna have
Hmm.
to answer it." And so I think that especially with the ramifications of what we're seeing, especially the threat to the freedom of the press, is that now more than ever is the time for press to actually ask the tough questions, because we need the tough answers more than ever right now. I truly believe that where we're at right now, the press needs to show what freedom they have left. And
Hmm.
they need to use it to get the answers and get the answers to the American people. But if they're not, then they basically might as well be state press.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I think a huge lesson for me here is becoming platform native, right? Where it's like we're seeing a rise of like or we should be seeing the rise of the politicians that can kind of use each of the platforms in that way. I mean, Mamdani has been a great example of that. AOC has, she's been using Instagram stories forever, and that's still one of like her best channels of like that's where people are like finding out that information. Um, so, I think we'll continue to see it head in that direction and of, just I think I want more from like my, the politicians. Like, yes, I want you to like know about like policies and what they matter, but I also want you to be able to talk about them in a way that
Yeah.
like matters to people. And like how it affects their lives. And I think that that's a huge disconnect that like has been a huge thing, especially within Democrats who it seems always are talking down to people that like,
Yes.
oh yeah, yeah, just vote for this. Like, the other side is evil. You should just vote for us. And it's just like, well, I need a little bit more to go on now. Like,
Yeah.
I need to know that you're actually going to do something. You're actually going to
Yeah.
stand up and say something. And even right now, the Dems aren't I mean, they're not in power, right? The Republicans have all three like branches. I need to know that you're going to be out there and still trying to communicate with what's actually happening on a daily basis. And if the way that you're doing that is by launching a failing YouTube channel that
Yeah.
like has horizontal videos, which the Democrats have done, or the
Yeah.
DNC has done, then like it's really showing to me that like you're not adapting and you're not really being able to like signal to the market that like you care about like
Yeah.
your voters.
I agree with that, and I would also add that I think it's very clear too that audiences are ready for non-boomers. We're ready for people our age in office.
Please.
And so I think that's the other thing is like I don't even want to say relatability, but like
Hmm.
I want people to be enacting laws that they are going to also be impacted by in the next 20 years, and we have not seen that in my lifetime.
Hmm.
So it's like I think that what we're also seeing is this desire to see people who are not just on the platforms that we're on, but they
Hmm.
use them too
Yeah.
because they are our age and
Hmm.
they are seeing the struggles that we are facing firsthand because they have
Hmm.
lived through the collective experience that we have had. And I don't expect an 80-year-old to understand me, and they
Yeah.
absolutely don't. They don't.
I mean, honestly, I don't expect a 50-year-old to either.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I had to say, we would just skip over Gen Xers and go straight to millennials. Like, there's more of us
Gen Xers
anyway.
I'm married to a Gen Xer. They wanna be left alone. They wanna
Yeah.
be left alone. They're like, "This y'all have ignored us long enough, just keep
Yeah.
ignoring us, we're
Yeah.
fine." I do love a Gen X, though. I would not mind a Gen X coming in and just, like but I feel like a Gen Xer would go into Washington and just, like, throw all the tables, but honestly, I kinda want that. So, like, don't skip Gen X, but I need, like, the baddest ass y'all got. I need, like, come in, plan Van
Are you
Halen.
saying you want Newsom?
No, no. That's a no
Because that's a
too.
Gen Xer that's out
That's a no
there.
too. No, he's cosplaying as the scandal president. He wants to be the scandal president. I can't remember his name. Fitz? He wants to be Fitz so bad. No, I don't
Oh,
like that one
from
either.
Scandal? Oh, the
Yeah.
Scandal president. Sorry, I thought you meant like
He's
literally the
he's
word scandal.
yeah, he's trying to be Fitz. Like it's every time I see him, I was like, you want to be Fitz so bad. Like he's cosplaying Fitz is what it feels like every time I see an article. I do like that he's fighting back.
He's doing
Or
something.
or at least his press secretary is fighting back. Like the
Mhm,
tweets
mhm.
are tweeting. Like they're funny.
See,
But
but that he understands that we need to
he's
be out
playing
there
with the
doing that,
culture.
right?
Yeah.
So he's hiring the people. He's hiring the team of like marketers
Yeah.
and social people to go out there and do that. And that's important, you know?
Yeah.
Mamdani also has like a team that does that, right? Like he has a special team that like creates video content because
Yep.
he knows that that's like his angle,
But he
right?
also goes on the street and talks to
Yeah.
people, and I think when you're I think it's really important, like, one of the things that he does that I love is there's all this vernacular about these urban cities being war zones.
Mm,
He's on the streets
you're right.
talking to normal people, doesn't look like a war zone.
Yeah.
It looks
Yeah,
like
yeah,
he's
yeah.
just meeting the people of New
The
York,
people in
and
New
they're
York.
like, he did a scavenger hunt, like, around, like, all the parts of New York, and that was just really lovely, and so I think it's very interesting to especially when we're talking about, like, truth and AI videos and what the
Hmm.
algorithm lets you see, showing up in person with video to showcase what is happening from a very clear perspective is incredibly powerful right now and something that all politicians should be thinking of.
I mean, Timothée Chalamet understands that as well,
Yes.
right? That's what he's been
Just get
doing
him
with his press
we
tour.
need Mondani to have like a little orange Hermes mini Kelly. Then
Yeah,
he'll do like the
exactly.
whole
Or
then
maybe a
he'll be
different
decked
color,
out.
one that suits more of it, like the blue or the purple that he's been
Yeah.
doing for his.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think this is another, like, continuation when we're talking about, attention and how audiences are changing, and so I have to talk about weakened fandoms, like we talked
Mhm,
about earlier with movies that you can't take people for granted, you can't assume that because you have a big budget movie that or a superhero film that everyone's gonna show up and it's gonna make $1 billion. That's actually not happening anymore, and
mhm,
so you have to bring out a good product, but you also have to work to buid that trust again, so, like, with Marvel we saw Thunderbolts, which is a fantastic movie, true
mhm.
to form. It's basically the Marvel equivalent of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. You should absolutely watch it. But that being said, Marvel had burned a bridge with a lot
Yeah.
of their diehard fans, and so people didn't come back. So the numbers for Thunderbolts is
Yeah, I
actually
didn't
quite
really
heinous.
watch
Like
it.
it's the numbers aren't good at all. The
Yeah.
movie's excellent and deserved better, but it's because it wasn't the movie, it was what the movie represented in this
Mhm.
larger scheme of things. And so having people come back. And so with this, I have to talk about two of the most feral fan bases and how they've both kind of flopped recently.
Okay.
The first is Apple. They released their new iPhone announcement
Mhm.
and it was
Womp
not well
womp.
received. It was very womp womp.
Yeah.
It went quiet very quickly. A lot of people were like, "What are you talking about? What are these colors? Like, what are
Huh.
we doing here?" And then I gotta talk about Taylor Swift and Life of a Showgirl.
Mhm.
And may it be different for other people's TikTok feeds because I had people in on my Twitter trying to tell me that like it sold so many copies, therefore it must be a success. And I am begging y'all to look at more than just one metric
Yeah.
and anything. But I did a lot of social listening to see how people were handling it, and I saw a massive outpouring of regular people who, like, are diehard Swifties who self-identify, who it's literally their personality, but we're like, "This isn't it."
Mhm.
And then now we're seeing ripple effects because there's been more variants done. There's a
Mhm.
necklace that she posted, which may or may not be an SS dog whistle, like, things I could not make up, but
Yeah.
are somehow
I mean,
being
the
talked
fact that
about
they're
online.
talking about it in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, so there's a lot of conversations there, and there's a lot of people who are really second guessing their fandom now, and it goes back to the idea of even if you have a cult-like feral fan base, you still have to continue to show up for them. You still have
Mhm.
to give them a quality product. You still have to give them the reason to stay feral. They won't
Mhm.
just stay feral on their own. And so I think it's been really interesting to see with both of these along with like the looming kind of economic crisis that we're in of people are cutting things out of their life, things that they love because they need to get rid of any discretionary spending. And so a lot of brands work towards brand affinity without doing the work to get there. They just want a fan club. They
Yeah.
just want a loyal fan base that will show up in line anytime they drop anything without doing the work to keep them wanting to stay in line. Like it's not enough to just blow the whistle and they come running, like Pavlov's dog. Like
Mhm, mhm.
it's not enough to ring the bell. You have to give them something that makes them want to continue to salivate, that makes them want to continue lining up. And I think as we see more and more people being impacted by the economy and cutting off those discretionary funds, more and more brands that are loved
Mhm.
are going to get cut because they are doing just enough and they aren't really proving why they deserve to be a mainstay in that person's life. And Taylor Swift and Apple are both seeing the dividends of that. Like they're both seeing what happens when you keep pushing that. And so I've seen a lot of people's eyes be opened over the
Mhm,
past
mhm.
week where it was all right, I didn't like the album and now it's like but now you want me to order like 20 different versions of it. And like
Yeah.
what
I
are we
think
doing here?
yeah, I think one of the things that has stood out to me is, the lack of acknowledgement that people are suffering right now.
Yes.
The
Yes,
economy
agree.
is not in a good place for a lot of people.
Mhm.
The jobs numbers are down. And so the fact that they're still approaching it in the same way that they were when the good times were rolling makes
Yes.
them look like they don't care about their
Yes.
people, about their
100%.
audience, right?
100%.
With Apple, the most that I got was like, "Oh, you changed the color." But that's it. Like,
Yeah,
"So
but
you just
even
want me
then,
to
it's
buy a
like,
new color?"
I can't be
Right.
excited. Yeah,
Right.
you didn't even do the bare minimum. Yeah.
Yeah, and then with Taylor Swift, um, I really think she could have taken this to be like, "Hey, y'all just made me a fucking billionaire through the Eras Tour by coming, like, being there, having this, like, moment you can experience. And I wanna pay that back to you by giving you more for less. Instead, she approached it the way that she did her other, like, rollouts, right? With, like, the different variants and more, I think, even than, like, the previous, versions. And then now not doing enough to, like, differentiate between them to
Yeah.
actually make it seem worth it. Or, you know, I think she could have done more to, like, make the initial thing that she wanted to sell, which was the album, be more special by including the voice notes that she's now including in the variants that she's expecting other people to buy again.
Yeah.
Those should have been in like the original, or at least the original four, which at least those had like the different colors. And it
Yeah.
was just like those four that people could pre-order, right? But now that it seems that she wants like more and more and more, she's just kind of coming across as like really greedy and not understanding that her fan base just, gave her so much money for like the Eras tour that like
Yeah.
you're just fleecing them, you know? And that part of it is what I'm seeing, right? Like, I'm not the biggest like Taylor fan. I'll like listen to her music like here and there. But when it started coming out, like I don't even like part of the problem is I don't even know if the album's as bad as people say it is,
It's
or
not
if
good.
it's
I
giving
listened to it, it's
people
not good.
or if it's giving people a bad taste in their mouth, all the greediness that's happening, that it's making people not like the album. And it's just kind of a vicious cycle of like
I think
this
it's both.
negative feeling going around and around.
Yeah.
Um,
It's giving both, honestly.
okay.
I can't call myself a Swiftie because I feel
Yeah.
like I have friends that are Swifties, and that's
Yeah.
like a PhD
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do the reading for,
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
doing it. But I got brought in late because I was a massive folklore fan. I have
Yeah. Okay.
folklore, it's like you can't see it, but it's, like, over there.
Hmm.
So I love folklore. I'm an eldest daughter and an English major. So, like, Fate of Ophelia, I could write a dissertation on how she needs to reread Hamlet because she missed the entire point. Eldest daughter, absolute
Hmm.
like, it was disappointing, so in that way, it is very canon as an eldest daughter. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of audiences that, there's a lot of Black women creators who've come forward to express some of the commentary and essentially, like, microaggressions that she has in some of her posts because, like,
Mm.
um, for example, like, apparently Travis, before he went after Taylor, he was trying to go after Megan Thee Stallion, and in one of her songs, she talks about, "I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage."
The Savage song, yeah, sure.
So it's
Hmm.
like, "What are we saying there, Taylor?
Yeah.
What are we
Yeah.
saying?" Um, and so it's very much the combination of all these things, and then there is almost every song is deeply, deeply reminiscent of other music.
Mm.
Like, almost every other
See, I
song
heard
has
about that
been
too, yeah.
yeah,
Like, there's
and
the
so
Jonas
and
Brothers one, there's
there's
like
quite a few. There's a
oh,
Jackson 5 one, there's a Lana Del Rey one, like, almost every single one you could say, like, this sounds very similar. It's a combination of, like, did AI write this? Or, like, what happened? I don't think it's the worst album ever written. If I had pre-ordered it, I would have been mad
mhm.
that I spent, like, $1 on this.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not good. There are some melodies that are like the melody for, Fate of Ophelia is actually kind of catchy, and it gets used on TikTok videos a lot, and I'll start listening to it, and I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I don't like that song though,"
Mm.
because the
I've had
lyrics.
Opalite stuck in my head, like, but just the one little like
Yeah.
melody because that's
But
I only heard it the one time.
even that was considered a microaggression
Okay.
because she's opalite, which is, like, bright and shiny and light, and then it's being compared to onyx, which is a black stone. Like, even that is just, like because it's basically comparing to Travis's
Oh.
ex-girlfriend, and it's just like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah.
So it's one of those things like we can't call Taylor a genius, a lyrical genius with Easter eggs, because if we do and we continue it into this album, it does
Mhm.
not look good for her. So it's like,
Yeah.
if we're gonna
That's
call her a
interesting.
lyrical
Mhm.
genius that has layers,
Mhm.
all of the layers are not
Have to be
good.
counted.
Yeah, like, if we're gonna deconstruct all of her writing, we're gonna deconstruct, and the lyrics are highly questionable. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's things like that that I think we need to at least consider. Um, but I think that coupled with she gets engaged, she drops the announcement, we get the thing, it's not that good. Now there's variants. Now there's a docu-series on the Eras tour.
At least you don't have to go to the movies and pay for that one, right?
No,
That
I
was
think it's
just
on
on Disney
Disney.
Plus, right? Mm.
Yeah. But I think it speaks to,
Yeah.
like, I'm tired, but I am but it's done I think it's a huge opportunity for Olivia Dean and Ray. I
Mhm.
am loving their music. Ray is just spectacular and actually, like, outdid the whole Last Showgirl thing. Like, her music video for
Mhm.
Where's My Husband is so good. And then Olivia Dean dropped The Art of Loving, which has been it's just a no skip album for me. It is stunning. It is like, so if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't care about Taylor Swift one way or the other, but I do like music. What should I listen to? You should listen
Mhm.
to Ray and Olivia Dean. They're both
There
amazing.
you
And I hope
go.
or and K-pop. And K-pop,
And
the
K-pop,
music
yeah.
from the K-pop Demon Hunters because they're great. And
Mhm.
I hope those three win like take all the Grammys.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I do want to bring up, I think maybe we do it as a bonus segment for
Yeah.
you to talk about the book marketing, the book tour, and kind of like
Yeah.
how that whole thing has been. Have you been on podcasts?
Yes. So I'm kind of existing and manifesting what I've been talking about, which is you
Hmm.
have to show up, you have to do things. I don't like being on camera. I'm great at marketing everyone else. For me, I always feel kind of icky when I market
Yeah.
my own stuff, but it
Tell me
is
about it.
but it is kind of the nature of the beast, especially in publishing. So I have a book called Transforming Customer Brand Relationships, and it's on building those relationships with the customers, all of the moving pieces that actually it takes to put together in order to actually have that brand affinity and fandom that we've talked about.
Hmm.
Talks about how community is a silo killer and how you can utilize that to really kind of supercharge customer experience and get it to its optimal level. And then what happens when it falters? How is AI impacting customer experience? How is it impacting how we talk to our customers? What happens if there's a PR crisis? What happens if you have like all these moving things? And so I have that. I went to Advertising Week last week to do, and then I had my book launch at Shopify New York, where I got to do a panel with Goldie Chan, who also has a book coming out, as well as Victoria Rose Wise, who's the senior director of CX at Little Spoon. So we were there, got to celebrate International CX Day, talk about the book, answer questions. I did a little reading of my book, and then I'm going to be going to for Toronto Community Week later this month, where I'm going to be doing two talks. I'm doing a 3-hour workshop as well as a 30-minute talk the next day. And then they're giving all the attendees copies of my book. And then later on, I'm going to be at Customer XCon in Boston in November. And I'm going to be doing a talk with one of the professors at Holt Business School. And so I'll be able to start promoting that soon. But I'm having to do more TikToks. I'm having to do more
Yeah.
LinkedIn. And I'm a copy girl. Like I'm a writer at heart.
Yeah.
So I don't wanna be on video.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an indoor cat. Like, let me just sit
Yeah.
at my typewriter and do my thing, and everyone will be better for it. But you gotta do what you gotta do. So I'm creating the content and I'm doing the videos, and I will say, like, every time I post about my book,
Hmm.
the Amazon numbers go up. Like, it
Yeah.
does work,
Oh,
sadly. Like,
marketing works, Christina?
I
Tell
know,
us
right? I
more.
know, right? But it's one of those things, like, I regret to inform you, you're gonna have to put
Yeah.
yourself out there. So if you're
Yeah.
listening to this and you're writing a book or you wanna be an author, like, writing the book is not the hardest part. It's
Mm-mm.
believing in yourself during, pushing yourself through it because you're gonna have, like, the worst imposter syndrome of your life,
Hmm.
thinking, like, "I have nothing to say, everything I wanna share, no one's gonna read it, no one's gonna care." And then you have to market it, you gotta market the thing, and
Yeah.
I do think, I was watching a video on TikTok, but it's from a podcast, and it's the guy that did it's the something murders, the Murder Club, Saturday Morning Club, Tuesday Murder Club,
The Netflix show?
the Netflix show. He's
Hmm.
the writer of those books,
Mm.
and he was talking about how a lot of traditional publishers, they're now when they're taking manuscripts from writers, they're asking how many followers they have to basically
Yeah.
say like, we're not going to take a risk on this unless you have like a big enough
Hmm.
audience. And I'm seeing that everywhere. We're seeing that in
Hmm.
Hollywood with people
Right.
saying that they're being asked
Yeah,
about their
Ethan
Instagram
Hawke just came
followers.
out and said that.
Yeah, and so we're seeing that widespread, but I think that it speaks to the kind of content that we're going to get, and I think the content that we are getting. Like I went to Barnes& Noble over the weekend, and like there's an entire subsection that's doing quite well, which is
Hmm.
like romantasy is probably the best way to
Romance, yeah,
describe
with
it.
dragons.
With dragons, it's yeah, smut with dragons.
Hmm.
But it like all the names sound the same. All the book covers look the
Hmm.
same, and they're doing numbers. And I've read some of them because I had a friend who was like, "You have to read this," and I got like 20 pages in. I was like, "You're gonna have to hold my hand. This is so poorly written.
Yeah.
I'm an English major canon girl.
Hmm.
Like you can't outsmut Anne Rice, and you're not
Hmm.
gonna like be a better writer than her. So like if that's what I need, I'm gonna go to Anne. Like I'm just
Hmm.
gonna go straight to her." Um, so it's things like that. I think that it's another symptom of kind of like the society that we've built around attention,
Hmm.
where there's a lot of really poor material that's being created and pushed out, but it's not necessarily good, but it does the numbers it needs to do because the
Hmm.
audience that's been established for it. So, um, it's just something else that we're going to have to fight through is just and amplify the good writing, amplify the stuff that makes your heart sing. Like I said, I love Olivia Dean. Her new album is
Hmm.
amazing. Like I'd rather talk about how great she is than talk about how bad the Taylor Swift album was. Like, let's push the good so that more people can find those artists.
Yeah, no, I agree. One thing I wanted to call out here is Christina's book is an actual like playbook that describes not only what things are, but how you can actually do them. Which is like a huge thing that like I found it is like actually useful. I don't read very much nonfiction. I usually like listen to like the audiobooks, but Christina's book is one that I bought because I'm like, okay, I want to like actually highlight the stuff that I know I'm gonna want to like look back on and like use in my work. And I think that that's like a huge thing. Speaking to Christina's point about the type of content that's out there now, it's really hard to find people that like do the work
Yeah.
and then like write well enough about it that like will actually help you improve your own work. And I think that that's like one of the huge things that stood out to me because, I've read some of those like pop, marketing books that come out and like, they'll describe like a theory or a hypothesis or whatever. And then the rest of the book is just like going back to that same like idea and maybe providing some examples here and there, but not very much like their own examples. It's just like
Yeah.
examples that they've seen from like, other companies that are like doing it well. Well, Christina's actually talking from experience of like how she's done the work, and then putting it in a way for you to then go out there and do it. So that's like a huge thing that like if you actually want to improve your marketing and like be a better marketer, these are the things you should be doing is like paying attention to the content that's being created that's actually good and that's going to help you do your work. Oh, buy the book and like let's get her to the top of the list. You did make it to one of the top of the Amazon list, right?
I did. I made it for the first week. I was number one in two different categories.
Well, that's amazing.
Yes.
And so, yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit more about like what it means to like have to actually market your book?
Yeah.
Like what you've been doing?
Yeah, so I've had the events. I have like book launches here and there. I'm doing a lot of like deconstruction LinkedIn and Instagram and
Hmm.
TikTok posts that basically are diving into some of these like more complex issues. I'm also doing a playbook series on my LinkedIn newsletter, Pocket CCO, where I'm breaking down like a lot of the individual pieces. So I talk about, I did like a reimagining of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but from like a
Mm,
customer perspective instead of like a human, like
sure.
living kind of perspective. So I talked about that. I talk about like voice of the customer, social listening, connection, and really like how basically holding your hand through the book of like, okay, well, here's some extra pieces of like, here's some questions to ask, here's some exercises to do, here's some things to think about when you are trying to figure out how do I execute this part of the book? How do I make sure that this is going to work for what we're needing to do? And so I'm doing all that. And then I have a couple more blogs that I'm writing and just a lot of content, a lot of like bite-sized pieces, a lot of podcasts, a lot of all of the things. Yeah.
Well, that seems to be the huge takeaway, I think, for,
Yeah.
this podcast. So let's move on to those. So a takeaway for me for the Timothée Chalamet example is that this whole idea of like manufacturer spontaneity, right?
Mhm.
Where it's coming across as being like a random thing that he's doing, like, oh, let's get people to come to like Regal. It turns out he invited people 4 hours before they were supposed to be at like the
Aw.
premiere. Um, but that I'm sure was planned ahead, right? They had to get Regal
Yeah,
involved. They had to get,
yeah,
the security. They had to make sure that like he was gonna have like the guys that were going with him. So it's manufactured, right? Like it's not
yeah,
real spontaneity that's like
yeah,
happening, but it's coming across as authentic, right? Because
yes,
it's letting Timothy would be him, right? And I think that that's kind of like the thing that people need to do here is like let the artists be themselves, but
yes,
figure out how to use that to then promote whatever they're promoting, right?
absolutely. I love that. I think it also speaks to the you can't act like you're as big as they think you are. You have to
Mhm.
be personable, you have to be relatable, you have to get down on their level. If you want
Mhm.
people to show up, but you won't make the time for them, people read that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure there are people who were invited to go to that event, that made their whole week. They're gonna tell everybody more than week, like,
Yeah.
some of them it made their whole life. They felt special, they felt
Mhm.
seen, they felt like VIP. They're gonna tell everyone they've ever met about that experience.
Mhm.
And I think that that speaks to going back to those customer relationships, like, people wanna be seen. Like, if people did not have an innate need to be seen and heard, social media would not need to exist. It exists solely because we want to connect, we want to feel seen, we want to feel heard. And so anytime, no matter how big you are, you make someone feel seen and heard, you make someone feel special. Like, I can't believe they said hi to me. I can't believe
Mhm.
they DM'd me. That's a really powerful way to connect to somebody and they will never forget it.
Yeah. Actually, I think that speaks to what Taylor Swift did wrong this time as well, right? There wasn't that like seeing of her, like her fans,
She used to
the
do it
way
too.
I
Like,
know.
she
Hmm.
absolutely used to do it. Like,
Hmm.
she would, like, have small parties. She would invite people, like, all the things. I think, like, if she like, what would've been really cool is if you could like, let's say that she goes through Spotify and she can see
Hmm.
who are, like, the top 20, because I
Mm.
know they can do this. Because I have a
They
friend in New
totally
York
can do
who's a
this. Yeah.
Spotify fan, and
Hmm.
so whenever there's a pop-up for Taylor Swift, she's always invited because she's always,
Hmm.
like, in the 0.001%.
Hmm.
Go to Spotify, find your top 20 listeners,
Hmm.
invite them to a show in Vegas,
Hmm.
and take them to, like, a showgirl show.
Right.
They get, like, they book the whole theater, it's Taylor Swift and her friends and these top fans, and they just have, like, a night with Taylor.
Hmm. Yeah.
You
That's a
couldn't you
brilliant
could
marketing
you couldn't but
tactic. Yeah. Right.
you couldn't pay for that, and also Vegas right now is struggling, so
Hmm.
that would also be a huge boost for Vegas. Like, that's the
Right.
thing too, is, like, you have, like, the life of a showgirl, but Vegas is struggling. Like,
Hmm.
is there a way that you can, like, incorporate that into it? And so, like, we've seen the economic return that Taylor Swift can have on cities.
Hmm.
Like, she lands her plane and, like, the economy
Right.
boosts. Like, Vegas could absolutely use that, and
Hmm.
you have an album about a showgirl. Like, the
Yeah,
math
there's so many things
maths.
that could have done there, yeah.
Yeah,
But that also I think relates to another takeaway I have
yeah.
is, that marketing is platform fluid now.
Yes,
That includes
absolutely.
these events that, like, you could be doing offline with, like,
Mhm.
the hardcore fans, but it also includes all, like, the digital stuff that you're doing, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
politicians, the movie stars, like,
Yep,
all the marketing should encapsulate everything in order to attract the different audiences that only pay attention to that one platform, right? Like, there's so many unique and creative ways that you can do marketing these days, depending on the platform that you wanna use. And sure, you might not be able to do all of them, but make sure the ones that you're going to do are going to have like the biggest bang for the buck for your consumer, for the people that you're trying to attract, and then also get you so much attention that the press then starts talking about it, right? Like that's a huge thing that Timothy has been doing here, right? Where it's like the press are talking about the Kelly bag, right? Like because
yep,
they're like, oh, he's wearing like an orange bag, and then people are like, oh, did he go into Kylie's closet? And it's like, no, he's been doing the purse thing since like before he was with like
yep,
Kylie Jenner.
yep.
So like put some respect on his name, you know?
Yeah,
So it's like he's still him. And I think
yeah,
that that's really coming across in like the movie promotional tour. And
I
that
agree.
should come across for all of these things. And I think that that's what bugs me about the whole like friend and like rage baiting and like scandal like type of marketing is that like if you're putting that out there, that just means that you're like that, that that's what you
Yeah,
believe in. That's what you want to
yeah,
be. And if like that's what you want to support, then like go ahead and like support
yeah,
that. But I know that I'm not going to. I'm going to go
yeah.
watch Marty Supreme because I want to support that sort of like,
Great.
marketing, that sort of like art and his like, actual like authentic, desire to be like a great, and I think he's well on his way to like doing that, but we'll have to see the Oscar campaigning.
I agree. Well, it's also like what I mentioned earlier about like focus on the positive, like
Mhm.
the Cluely and Friend thing. And I know that I'm actually going against what I'm about to say by even talking about them, but the only thing that's going to make them stop is when they're ignored.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the only way to combat that is like
Well,
the
that's
only
why you're
way to,
not gonna talk about it anymore, right?
yeah, yeah. But that's the thing. Like, if you think about like this year, how much rage bait we've seen from like political, from entertainment, from brands, from all the things, is that it works. It's like hate is such a powerful
Mhm.
emotion that it's going to manipulate you into doing all sorts of activities. You're not just going to ignore it, you're going to hate it, you're going to leave a comment, you're going to quote tweet it, you're going to like say what you need to say. But that's what they are specifically playing with your
Yeah,
with
rage
your
bait
brain.
is a term
They
for that
they're
reason,
doing it on
right?
purpose, and the only way to make them stop is to not give them what they want, and the only way to do that is to ignore them, but we would have to, like, collectively ignore
Mhm.
them in order for it to work, but that's the thing, that's why they're not mad, that's why they giggle every time it's vandalized or people are talking about how stupid they are, it's like, You gave me what I wanted, so who's
Yeah.
stupid now? That it really is like that's what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure. But that's why I want to focus on the positives, right? Like
Yes.
it worked for
Yes.
Leo and one battle
Yeah.
after another. Like, look how much money they've made since,
Yeah.
because he went out there and is like, promoting the movie.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful about Marty Supreme. We even saw with like the Superman movie, like the whole
Mhm.
way that they were marketing it was
I
like the
loved how they
goodness behind
marketed it.
it.
Oh, I loved how they marketed
So
it. They
like
did
I
such a great
think,
job.
yeah. So I think there are like marketing strategies that are trying to focus on the good. So, but I think that's all on the rest of us to also,
Yeah.
support the good art and like try to be there on opening weekend to support
Yes.
the movies that we want to see created more and more.
Yes, agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Christina, and talking about your book and talking about all this stuff. I know we talked through a lot. How can people support you?
You can grab the book wherever you buy books. It's Transforming Customer Brand Relationships. You can also just Google me and it'll have links to the book and everything else. But you can also connect with me on Twitter at, I'm not going to call it X, at that Christina G, as well as on LinkedIn. Just search up Christina Garnett. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. And then make sure to follow the podcast at YouTube at Meme Team Pod and then Spotify and then TikTok at Meme Team Podcast. And please, please, please leave us a review if you like it. It's the best way that people can find out about the podcast. See ya.